Doo-doo-doo-doo. Welcome back to another episode of Quantum Perspectives with myself, Jason, and my co-host.
Fiore.
And today we're going to be talking about friendships, relationships, any ships that you might have had in your, or that we might have had in our, I'd say, because of we're only at this age, some of our small experiences thus far. And to go right in. So we talked about it last time in our previous episode of culture shock and where we feel at home, but I want to revisit the topic of how did we make friends in university? Because I don't know if you came here for high school. I came here for high school before, but only one person went to the same university as me after. So did you move here and then go straight into university, or did you spend some time before?
I came here just for a university, and maybe fortunate thing is that I had a friend from same high school who went to Seneca. And it's not like we were able to meet really often, but there was still some sense of home, if you were to explain it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no one from the same school that went to the same university.
I had someone who went apparently we went to the same university after high school, but we kind of parted ways because I was in management in my first year with my friend, and she was in economics, and in second year I decided that this wasn't the program for me. I wasn't happy. I just did what I was told to do, maybe classical route when you have nothing, you don't know what to do. You ask your parents, like, you just do this.
I see. I feel.
I'm neutral. I could have become an accountant, but I felt no joy. It did not spark joy, as Maricondo would say. And so I switched to arts. So for me, what might be different is I didn't really make friends until second to third year, which is when I also started. I didn't make friends until I joined concert band, which is where there's at least 75 people when I first joined. It was a room full of 75 people, and I thought, I remember the first class we had, or the first or second class, we did like the music warm up, and we had this one. I think we had like a 5-minute time slot, and the professor said, "Go and meet the people that you don't know." So it looked like Shibuya Crossing, I swear.
Wow.
It was so messy because it was just it was 75 people just crossing from one end of the room to another and meeting people like, "Hi, who are you?" Like, "Oh, I'm so and so." And we had 5 minutes, or we had a good chunk of time to just socialize. And I can say in that year, I know more people than those who know me. Like, people we associated with, like, aren't you like first row clarinet or second row flute? Like, "Oh, I know you." Like, you know everybody's name, and I've never done that. So my experience, at least, of knowing a class is, this is my homeroom. But we don't have homerooms in university.
That's true.
And even in Canada, at least in my experience of the high school, there's I don't even know people in the whole grade. Before at my international school
Uh-huh.
in Singapore, I knew the whole grade. So when you move like up a year, it's
Uh-huh.
going to be one of those people.
Oh,
So out
I
of like
see.
maybe 90 students, it's going to be one of those people, and you know everyone, even though the people come and go. But for this one, I've never been in a. I felt so happy. By the way, that's if you didn't understand, if none of you really get that point, I was
Uh-huh.
so happy that in I spent 2 years not really meeting or knowing a friend,
Uh-huh.
but I got stuck with people who I started meeting people who are so extroverted.
Oh,
So
I
for
see.
someone who can't really approach people,
Uh-huh.
they would come up to me like, "Hey, how are you? How's your week?" Or like, "Who are you?" And they were so nice for school colleagues. But then I don't think this
Oh,
is the first layer. I'm not trying to diss them or say anything bad. I really appreciated them, and I don't talk to them that often anymore. But some of them I still talk to.
uh-huh.
They We maintain a good relationship. And side note and random fact is my photography career took off because I was there. So I started
Oh,
doing LinkedIn photos.
uh-huh.
At first, I was gonna help one person, and then
Uh-huh.
that's how my reputation kind of blew up, and I ended up
That's
getting this
great.
work study as well because at first they said, "Oh yeah, it's just my photo," and then they asked, "Well, can I take some of my friends with me?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready because insecure. I just started.
Uh-huh.
That's a lot of pressure." And they ended up bringing two other very like loud people,
Uh-huh.
and then the word spread further. Apparently, I did really well at the time. Now that I think about it, I could
Uh-huh.
have done better because I have more experience now. But I did good, and then the word spread. Like, oh, he does. Like, oh, did you see? Like, oh, I like your LinkedIn photo. Yeah, Jason took it. I'm like, who? Like, the percussion, Jason. I'm like, oh, like, oh, he did. Like, oh, I kind of want one too. Yeah, he only charges bubble tea. I'm like, oh, that's very
Wow.
affordable for what? Like unlimited photos, whatever I like, I send it to you.
Uh-huh.
That's how my career started. It's because of I met that concert band group, and I didn't. Maybe I regret it now that if I could
Uh-huh.
go back with this quantumized Zen mindset,
Uh-huh.
I would probably go back and try to enjoy it more and really be
Uh-huh.
more open. So one thing I regret about that situation back then, or my how I felt back then, was I was still so closed off. So if I opened up to them, I think the relationship or our friendships might have been better
Uh-huh.
and more solid. And of course,
Right.
that was just a concert band.
Uh-huh.
And there was, of course, the studio art. And I was also, I'm a media studies major. So
Uh-huh.
I didn't really make friends in media studies. It's because it's lecture. It's like a lecture hall. It's not very, what do you call it? What do we call our studio practice? Like studio courses. Because it's not lecture. It's more like, it's a
It's
smaller class.
yeah. It's more practical than lecture, I'd say. But
Yeah, so I'm most of the people that I can say are my friends back then in university are
uh-huh.
from the practical courses.
Uh-huh.
Like even randomly, like because you spend like 4 months with them, right? Or 3 month,
Uh-huh.
three, I guess. And if you're closed off, then you're not gonna really get to know people.
Uh-huh.
But some people just get the signal like, I think this person's shy. Let me go talk to them. And some people are, if they don't want to talk to you, then they don't want to talk to you. Like they'll be like, they'll just stay at the like, what do you call it? Colleague level. Your colleagues,
Uh-huh.
as our professors call them. But I've met some really nice people who, like, specifically, I met someone in drawing, which
Uh-huh.
I'm not confident in, but, and I saw people who are so, like, gifted, I'd say. And because they've
Oh.
probably been doing this for their whole career, maybe.
Uh-huh.
And they'd be like, oh, I like your drawing. I'm like, what do you mean? Like you're like they can shade, and I'm just like one tone with charcoal, like one scrape. But they're so humble. So this one person was so humble and really kind, and they said, like it's okay. You just started. I'm like, oh, you're so nice. But I didn't. I met some really interesting people in my university years, but it didn't happen until second or third year.
Oh.
And part of it is because I did open my mouth and reach out to people.
Uh-huh.
But I think to give credits to where it is due, it's I got carried a lot. I got
Oh.
helped. It's because I knew one person, and then their circle turned out to be really nice,
Uh-huh.
and their friends became my friends too, and I became part of the circle. And that's how I kind of survived, I guess.
Uh-huh.
And so when they all graduated, that's where they and um unfortunately, when they graduated soon after,
Uh-huh.
it was like COVID,
Uh-huh.
so we didn't really have friends. I didn't really have friends from courses anymore because they all graduated and we're mostly online. So the only
Uh-huh.
friends I would talk to are group mates.
Interesting.
So I don't really have that much, and I don't really have that many memories, I'd say, with friends. Not to be disrespectful, like nothing really sticks to me
Uh-huh.
as like a heart to heart talk. There are a few individuals, of course, that I can't forget, and I still
Uh-huh.
am friends with them because we just had that kind of connection, or I guess I trusted and opened up to them.
Uh-huh.
And so this is dipping back a little bit into relationships, but I would tell them like, oh, because it was if I like one of our mutual friends. It's not it's the same gender, so it didn't really
Oh,
affect my friend.
I see.
So it
I
was like,
see.
yeah, no competition.
Uh-huh.
I just told them like, oh, I am interested in this person, and they were like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, good for you. But when you're blinded at the moment, you're like, I don't
Uh-huh.
see any red flags. I only see green flags.
Oh,
But
I
this
thought.
person saw like all the reds, and it's like, I don't know what you're getting yourself into, but if that's how you feel, then I support you. But there's also, I think I met a lot of the people that I ended up becoming friends with after a lot of them graduated is from
Uh-huh.
my work study period when I was
Uh-huh.
working in the department, and
Uh-huh.
the students would come in and rent equipment or just discuss concepts or just have chats. And one, hmm, I'd say the one person that comes to mind that I really met through working is from a
Uh-huh.
workshop that I did for one of the photo classes.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if you're a fan of Flash or not, but that was what got me the job because I learned how to use the equipment. And that was kind of like,
Oh.
ooh, that's one person that's different from the other people who applied
Uh-huh.
because he's the only one that uses the Studio Flash,
Uh-huh.
and he probably knows how to use it and can teach it. Got my foot in the door, opportunity.
Congrats.
But thank you. But this one friend she was in my group for my
Uh-huh.
station, but I forgot she was there. And so when they came to the office and they wanted to rent equipment for their class, I asked them, were you at the workshop? And they said, yeah, I was in your group. I was the one helping you. I'm like, oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
And then it's like, why? And then my supervisor was like, wow, like you're the worst. How could you forget? Like she's in your group and she's the one that helped you. And you asked if she was there in the workshop. But I ended up becoming good friends with her too. So I tend my motto, or at least the story of my relationships with friends, with people is the people I end up meeting in a very really strange way. Like those stories or those people, those are the ones that I end up really sticking with.
So how interesting.
Because when I met you was
Uh-huh.
at the Japanese Society for Business People. Was that?
Yeah, but the thing is that I barely remember you because I was on the, organizer side and you're the participant. So,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you ended up there when you're also apparently. I found out. I thought you were second year when I first came. Turns out we're in the same year.
yeah.
I don't know how you landed an executive position in your first year.
Well, I was a foundation member and so like we all had some kind of executive position already when we started that society.
But you just joined the university. How do you know?
Oh, so see, I don't remember exactly, but I was already like hoping to connect with other Japanese students on my campus because I knew that there were more students from Japan in St. George, but not in Scarborough. At the time, I didn't know much. But then I think I was able to meet
One of
from,
them.
see, I don't remember, but somehow I was able to connect with few other first year students.
There were other first year Japanese students.
Yeah, and most of them were in management.
Oh wow, maybe that's why they're in that group.
Yeah, also there were few exchange students from Tokyo University at the time.
Wow.
So, those people were more social than me. So, if you know one of them, you will be told to, meet with other bunch of other people.
Yeah, I remember going to that group, and I don't know how I ended up going with my sister, but I was so wotage, like wota, like otaku idol, AKB idol, that I had a shirt that says I love AKB48, and I have a ticket holder from Harajuku, by the way, and I was like fully geared up, fully nerded, like wota uniform.
I like that.
Yeah, because I was so proud. I was like, I need to tell them that it sounded so wannabe like Japanese back then, and I still am. Like I'm a fake Japanese, and deep in the heart, I have what they say. I embody. I tried at a young age. I embodied the Bushido, or the what do you call it? Warrior code. Is that the English equivalent? Samurai code.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know the English equivalent of it. It's like
Yeah.
that's like old warrior code.
Uh-huh.
Like I idolized it at a young age. And then I learning about AKB, and then I thought, oh, this is where I belong. Apparently, it was the completely wrong place to be at, because everyone was so serious about
So,
working in Japan. Then there's one guy was like all happy, like being so like ecstatic. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're speaking in a language that I understand.
uh-huh.
This is where I can prove myself. And I don't know. I don't remember
Uh-huh.
if that one lady was the executive president or vice president. I think she was a president. I'm not gonna name her, but
Uh-huh.
she asked like, "Oh, who here wants to learn Japanese?" And I put my hand up like, "Bam!" straight in the air. I'm like, "Me, me, 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 me." And she answered in Japanese like, "Oh, you're already pretty good." I'm like, "Oh, it's such an honor. Thank you." Like I'm like, ah, what a child. Like you're just fishing. You really aim for that compliment. I'm like, really deep down, it's like, cause I used to be much better than I am now. Cause I didn't use it. But then I saw you for the first time. I was like, what? She's like, black turtleneck, long black hair. I'm like, that is the embodiment of a Japanese person who's from like straight up from, that feels so Kyoto. Cause like long silky black hair.
Right. When
She
I
looks
had long
scary.
hair. Yeah.
Yeah, like she looks scary.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Who would know? Who knew that 3 years from then I would meet you again?
Yeah, in studio.
Yeah, I ended up no. I found out in like 2 years that we're in the same department. We're in the same year. She's younger than me, and she is like, she became a thing, like a brand. It's like, oh, have you seen? Oh, this work is definitely Iori. I'm like, who is this Iori? When I see you again, I'm like, oh, it's her.
See, that's the part I was unaware of. I was just focusing on my work, so I wasn't really sure how people viewed my work.
For those who don't know, she used to work with a lot of projectors, and that became like her thing. And she did a lot of work that really seemed out of the box. I'm not saying that other people's work weren't that good or out of the box, but there was, in a good way, there's just this really weirdness to it. Like, who would have thought of doing that with a projector? Like, she, in my opinion, as someone who is a fan and looks up to her as an artist, it just didn't make sense. Where's her brain at? Like, where does she get all these ideas from? Why don't you just point it at some point? A projector is just meant to be pointed to a wall where you can see it, not like point, like use a webcam and then projector to a pillar so you can hug yourself.
Yes, that's my iconic piece, I'd say.
Nobody thinks about doing that. Maybe it's like, oh, maybe you can create shapes, but hugging yourself, it just never crossed my mind. But she felt so genius that I thought one day I want to be her friend
Thank you.
when I get to her level. Like, she paved the way, and then everyone, and then maybe again, like you said, you don't really know about it, but a lot of people talked about you. Like, oh, of course it's gonna be her. Like, when you had award shows, of course she's gonna win that. It just became like, you became one of those, like, you were a goat, greatest of all time.
Ah, thanks. It's my favorite song by Polyphia, if you know that band, by the
No, I
way.
don't know.
Oh,
I don't
never
know.
mind.
I don't know.
Never mind.
But sooner or later, I met her, and then I was like, it's time for my Japanese to shine. But like, I don't know if she would see me as one of those wannabe who just kept throwing like Japanese at her. So I was quite nervous when I first met her. But then somehow we clicked, and I'm like, I'm friends with someone I never thought I'd be friends with.
Well, I didn't know that you see me in such a,
Such a light.
yeah. And like, I always recognize you as, you were sort of like to-go person about anything technical. That's how I viewed you
Yeah.
from certain point. And you always wore like Sushi no Gen t-shirt or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Because it's one of those oversized shirts that just were comfortable, but it also happened to be white, which is really hard to not get dirty because I eat a lot of food that has sauces and I keep staining it.
Well,
But yeah, it just, from my perspective, to respond to what you just said, to at least to me and a few others, you were an idol or like an example or standard of like, that's the model, role model student of our department for digital art.
thank you.
And then for me, it not to not to speak lowly of people who are technicians, but I just thought, oh, I'm just a technician. I just know how to use equipment. And she's out there making art. But this is what makes me happy, because I like being around technology and learning how to use things, because I am techie. And I am proud to be a technician,
Uh-huh.
because that's what I love doing, and I like to learn and use all the equipment so I can teach other people the joy of these equipments and help you realize your concepts.
Uh-huh.
But it just felt, somewhere along the way, I felt inferior because, oh, I'm never going to get to her level, because as an artist, I'm much lower, but technically I know more. But
Oh, I see.
but as one of our professors said, what's the point of knowing how to use equipment but knowing not having any idea what to do with it? I had to tackle that question too, where I was asked, are you more of a concept based art? Are you are you technical, or are you like artists, like arts, like abstract art, very conceptual? I said, no, I'm very technical, because that's where my passion is. I like to learn about technology and equipment, and I'm less about drawing up concepts. And I was told, you're going to hit a limit, because what's the point of knowing how to use equipment but not having the idea of what to do with it? And it didn't click with me until later on that I have equipment, but I have no idea what to do with it. I don't know how to make, let's say, like if we talk video, I don't know how to script a good plot line, but I know how to get all the shots.
Right.
So if you give me if you give me a script and like, oh, this is a story I want to tell, I can come up with a shot list. I can come up with, oh, we can angle it like this, we can shoot it like this. But I don't have that initial material. Well, at the time, now I can come up with I can make my own videos and I can plot it, I can script it. I just don't, because I'm lazy, but I realize
Wow.
that's where the line is, because I'm technical and she's not.
For her.
That's why we'll never match. Well, I guess technically you would match, right? Because I know how to make things happen and you have the ideas.
Right.
And I think that's how this podcast really is a reflection of, like, you have the topics and I'm just trying to make it happen through, I know how to use this. But then again, it's a fair share, because you know how to use After Effects and I'm a bit weaker in that sense, because you've been making art and I've been sticking at my own, like, I've been swimming around in my own pool. Like, this is what makes me happy.
It's really interesting, because I see myself as both. Like, I like learning new technical things. So that's why I keep watching, those YouTube tutorials. Pretty much any Adobe software I've watched throughout, especially these past few years. But then again, I guess for me the process is the opposite. I have something that I kind of want to make already or share already, and trying to catch up my skill towards that so that I can make something.
Yeah, I've always been technical. I think that's why I enjoyed my time being work study as a technician. And I just like, I don't want to say teaching, because it sounds like I know a lot, but I like helping others to feel that joy of, I know how to use this equipment. I know how to, so I can realize my video or my photo. But I also understand that not a lot of people are technical, so they don't really want to, they just want to, they don't really care about the theory. They just want to get it done. Like, how do I get, let's say, a well-exposed photo? You just follow this formula and you'll get it. Versus, it will look better if it was a bit dark, let's say, with more contrast, or if I make it too bright. That's where the experiments are. That's where the learning experience are. But yeah, that's just a little saltiness with a few students. Like, I spent time teaching you, and you just, I don't care. I just want the marks. Those people are not my friends. That's a bit of a summary of my time at making friends and being with friends at university. I did bounce back and forth between art and media, and what else did I do? Like, I did some math courses too, and I did some management courses too, but I didn't really make friends in those courses. But one thing that I did do during exam season was, I love exam season, by the way. I get so excited during exam season.
Really?
And a lot of people say that, because I get this high, I guess, when an exam day. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so fun.
Oh.
So I get so excited when everyone else is stressing in front of the exam rooms, and I'm just sitting there, like, I can't wait to go in. I can't wait to write. I can't wait to answer all the questions that the
Wow.
we have. And then so I think I must look crazy to some people. Like this, like he's not reviewing. He's just sitting there, looking at his phone, listening to music.
Uh-huh.
Like what's wrong with this guy? He looks so happy, and then everyone was like, most people look a bit more stressed, like hair not really nicely done. Like
I
they
was
look like
more
this.
of that side.
Me, I'm just waiting. Like, when can I go in? I want to go home, like quickly. But then when I go in there, I'm like, yeah, like oh, because my exams were all mostly open ended, so that's
Uh-huh.
why it was more fun for me.
I see. I get what you mean now.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
of course, there are multiple choice, true and false, but my
Uh-huh.
favorite are always open ended
Uh-huh.
because it really gave. Maybe as you can tell, because I talk a lot. I don't always talk this much. I only talk a lot to the right people, but because I like what I did
Uh-huh.
in enough in media studies, I enjoyed the assignments and the exams because it gave me time to really test myself and express what I learned in the
Uh-huh.
course. But I didn't really have friends in media studies, so like most of my friends are from my minor programs in music and culture, which is concert band, on some other courses.
Wait,
As
what's your combination of program? Just
oh,
just to
yeah. So I'm
make sure.
media studies major.
Uh-huh.
Specific route is in youth culture. So I studied memes,
Perhaps.
emojis,
Oh,
mobile gaming,
interesting. Uh-huh.
and how to become an Instagram celebrity or like IG psychology.
Uh-huh.
That sounds cooler than it is, but it's really understanding how people interact and how
Uh-huh.
people get what's it called? Is it dopamine or is it and you get that rush from likes
Uh-huh.
and why people something that I was personally interested in is where why or how people youths according to the academic journals
Uh-huh.
get their confidence and self-value from online spaces.
Um,
How we choose to live life online versus in real life. Why? Because online we can be whoever we want, and in real life
uh-huh.
we're stuck with whoever we are. Now, though, why I chose that path is because I am curious about it as somebody who spends their time online as well.
Right.
But one thing that media studies, at least one of our professors taught us is he taught us in our first year to use your powers for good, and I had no idea what that meant. Because we end up learning in media studies is media studies, in if I can simplify it, is the art or the science of
Uh-huh.
art. The
Uh-huh.
science of how art is used as a marketing weapon,
Uh-huh.
which is quite contrast, which is, I dare say, from first year marketing experience
Uh-huh.
in university, that it's quite similar.
Right.
Because the goal of marketing is how do we create a need,
Uh-huh.
and media studies is analyzing what creates the need.
Uh-huh.
An example that I like to give is if you ever see, I think Japan is quite notorious for these ads. I love Japanese ads for different products, but um, if you ever see car ads,
Uh-huh.
there's usually a happy family in that car ads.
Right.
So if you have the car, you have a happy family,
Right.
and that's the message you're sending. And if you look at makeup ads, if you have this, then you're gonna be like this.
Perhaps.
You see perfume or cologne or like fragrance, generally fragrance ads. If it's a male fragrance, there's always a good-looking model or lady in the advertisement, and that's what you're gonna attract that if you have it. And there's this need that we create, and it's using art. Like, is it the design of the bottle? Is it the way that the shots are framed?
Right.
And the weirdest knowledge I guess I gained from media studies is a room is not a room if there's no door.
Wow.
And that blew my mind. Because a room without a door is not a room. Because you
Right.
can't go inside of it.
Right.
I actually liked my combination of majors,
For her.
but it felt somewhere along the way I felt that I was really specializing myself because it's three of them are art.
Right.
Music, media studies, and studio art. But at the same time, they play well together
I know.
because they all connect. But what about you?
Well, for me, my major is studio art, and my two minors are computer science and statistics. I think I've mentioned in the earlier episode. But again, for even for me, those combination, I feel like they play out really well, especially for my specific expression, because the specific type of artwork I'm interested in, or I've been interested in before I pursue my art career, was media art type of thing, or digital art. And so you, of course, need more technical knowledge that includes stuff like programming, or you might want to use data and make it into some kind of visual expression, which I've done in some of my works. But with taking studio art or any kind of like major that allows you to express creatively, is that all other things you've learned plus your own identity or your perspective, so to speak, it all reflects into your creation. And that's why it's interesting. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. But going back quickly to the main topic, since we kind of branched off, but we will talk about being an artist and our time as an art major, like, or minor in my case, later on, somewhere down the road. Because some people might be interested, some people might not. But I always thought maybe some people are curious about what we really do as an art student.
Right.
But going back to the topic of friendship, have you had any bad relationships, so like with friends per se, because we're talking about friendship?
Well,
Or if you have relationships before, then feel free.
I've been in a relationship.
I've been in a unofficial one, which I'll share later. But
Okay. But like overall though, I'm not very like conscious about relationships with people. Like it could be any, friendship, romantic relationship, or situationship. It could be family as well, but I'm not really the type to like consciously make decision, and some people cut off people purposely, right?
Yeah.
I'm not really the type to do it. But it just happens naturally. You might just, separate naturally with someone if you don't really resonate with that person anymore, and you might get closer with someone else who you were really close before. It happens all the time. It changes consistently, I feel like.
My question then is, if you're not consciously thinking about it, then what to you defines like, oh, this person is my friend and this person is not? Like, are there any I guess green flag, red flag in this, to use modern day language?
So I actually don't really agree or consciously care about the idea of red flag.
Oh.
And I don't know why I think like this, but I feel like those signs are a way to protect you in advance so that you won't get hurt. But maybe I'm used to, or I know how to not get hurt.
People?
Yeah, deal with people. or deal with hurt. I don't even get hurt that much. So, well,
But then, what about people who have traits that don't really go well with you? Then, let's say somebody who likes to gaslight you, or is quite toxic in their personality.
again, what's the definition of toxic, right?
Like, let's say you plan to meet with your friend outside
Uh-huh.
somewhere, and then you're late. Like maybe, or like they're late,
Uh-huh.
and then but then it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, and you say, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. But so they're late like half an hour. This is a real experience, by the way. I'm just gonna.
Uh-huh.
This is so if I sound too bitter, I'm sorry. Not with you, but that's and then if you're late by like 1 to 3 minutes,
Uh-huh.
they're like, wow, I can't believe that you're late. If it was me, I would have come earlier. Oh, but then there was like traffic or something. Then come earlier next time. Like it shows like, is it maybe you don't respect me anymore? You know, that's like that
Oh,
just
I see.
that kind of feeling.
Well, in that case, I might say, but you've been late before. I don't know. I've never been
I've
into
never
that.
been late before. I've never been late before. What are you talking about? I would never do that to you.
I don't know. I might just laugh at them. It might be offensive, but I'm like, what is this person saying?
Wow, respect.
I don't know. Or maybe I might not laugh, but I'm like, wait.
You know, it's
Is
why I'm
this
just gonna go home. I'm
Uh-huh.
just gonna go home.
But, you can just not hang out with them from next time or something.
Oh, so you seem to be quite peaceful at just letting, I guess, moving away in a way, in a sense.
I guess so. So, if you promise to meet up at the time, maybe you can spend time, enjoy, go places at that day, but next time you might not want to join or something.
So you won't be the type of, I'm not in the mood anymore, because you already promised. So like you already made an appointment, so you would honor the appointment, but then there's no next time maybe.
See, even that, it really depends. If you guys are going to somewhere, you've been really excited to go to, and if that excitement wins, you'd still go. But if your sort of like anger at the time wins, I might just go home. It depends on the mood of that time or specific place you're going.
Ah, that's true. That's true.
Actually, I don't want them to have enough power to make me feel down.
Ooh.
So, like, I don't know. Am I too arrogant?
No, I mean, it just shows how much you care about yourself. You're willing to protect yourself
Yeah.
in a way. But that's what I mean by toxic or gaslighting, where someone who just, they have that kind of personality. Because you said you don't really mind, because you mentioned earlier, red flags doesn't really bother me because red flags are there to protect you kind of ahead of time.
Uh-huh.
That's why I asked. And in a situation where you have a friend that's a bit more vocal or really for
Uh-huh.
having that holding the power in the relationship,
Uh-huh.
or in your relationship, then what do you do? Because if I was in that situation, I have been in that situation.
Uh-huh.
Thank God it was only a friend. I felt lost at the time because that was the only friend I had. So I thought, well, it's okay. Maybe I'm too soft. So I lost the power already. I was too soft. Maybe I'm too weak. Maybe it's my fault.
Uh-huh.
Maybe, it's one of those, it's okay. They're just in a bad mood. I can change them. I can fix them. Or they're just, you don't get them. And
Uh-huh.
I realized somewhere along the line, I was defending this person. I realized
Uh-huh.
after all the magic was done, that I was just being disrespected because I had feelings at some level of feelings.
Uh-huh.
I was being addressed as, I wasn't even being called by name. Like they would just call me by like, hey, like, and like oi or yeah or yeah. I guess in Japanese is like oi,
Oh.
like hey, like or not even sometimes not even hey. Like they just talk and it's just assumption like, well I'm their only friend, so it must be me.
Uh-huh.
But it was I thought it was like oh it's just our thing, like to be cute. But then it's like no, that's straight up disrespectful. After I woke up
Uh-huh.
to the facts and how I woke up, I confessed I got embarrassed in
Oh.
public ish, and I and then I just woke up
Perhaps.
thanks to our one of our mutual friend, like you and I's mutual
Uh-huh.
friend. They told me might as well get it out. Like you either say it
Uh-huh.
and you get hurt, you happy,
Uh-huh.
you just swallow your feelings and you never know. And if you can live with that, you live with that. So I was like, oh,
Oh,
I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna say it. I should have just swallowed it.
I
But if
see.
I swallowed it, I would have just suffered longer under this false lie.
I see.
But that was not the most recent relationship story. Not
Uh-huh.
even a relationship, but the unofficial relationship story that I said I would say is when I
Uh-huh.
first moved to Canada, within the first month
Uh-huh.
of going to the school, I told someone that I really like your hair. I really like you. You're really cute, because she had like golden highlights or like an
Wow.
ombre, and she had like long
Cool.
wavy hair,
Uh-huh.
and she had a very like unique style. Maybe because I came from a private school, so this
Uh-huh.
was the first person I saw that was like she had like an oversized hoodie with like all these like very rapper hip hop patterns.
Oh, that
She
must
had
be really cute.
then the bottom was like short short like mini or
Uh-huh.
short skirt with leggings because it was like September into October, so coldish.
Oh.
And then I was like, what? And she had like those. Do you know your shoes well? Like you know it's like Nike shoes that go all the way up to your ankle, like
Yeah.
those high cut shoes.
Yeah.
She was wearing that. I was like, this is street style. I've seen this on the internet.
Oh.
So I told her like I really like your fashion. I really like
Uh-huh.
your hair. I think you're really cute. And somehow that translated to he likes me.
Uh-huh.
He's asking me out, which
Oh.
I did not say that.
Yeah.
I just said maybe because I'm bad at expressing myself back then, and maybe still now. I somehow became her boyfriend starting the next day.
Really?
Yeah, and I was because I was at lunch and
Uh-huh.
our lunches are 1 hour, and her friend comes up to me and is like, Jason, why aren't you with your girlfriend? I'm like, who? It's like and then it's like name like and insert name. It's like you told her you liked her yesterday.
You're like, did I?
No, I mean I did, but like I didn't say I wanted to go out with her. I just said I think she's really cute. But I didn't think that meant I want to go out with her. Like this
Fair.
isn't like this. There's no love letter. Like sorry to be very weebly,
Yeah.
but there's no love letter. There's no confession except I said I really liked. I thought that
Uh-huh.
was a natural compliment because back when I was in my private school, everything's really controlled, but
Uh-huh.
uniform. But I was like, I really like your hair today because
Uh-huh.
we're free to change however our hair looks. And I thought that was normal because this was my first public school.
Yeah.
So I guess
So you accidentally got into a relationship without knowing.
yeah, that lasted like 2 weeks, and then I was in class one day, and one of the students was asking the teacher, "Ma'am, Jason is not spending time with his girlfriend." And my back of my mind, like, why do you care? And then the teacher was on my side because she says, "Well, he's not on the hunt. Like he's not like hungry for her or anything. Like he's just." Because I told her the situation. I don't know what's happening. I don't really know how this happened, and it's making me feel very uncomfortable because this is a new experience for me. Like I just
Uh-huh.
moved here. Like I'm not here to cause any troubles. I did not say it as well as that, by the way. I just said I don't know what's happening, and I didn't want this to happen, and I don't know how it happened like this. And so she kind of understood that it was just really a misunderstanding. And then, surprise, surprise, the same friend comes up to me, like the girl's friend comes
Uh-huh.
up to me in lunch again. It's like, I think you guys should break up. And this girl's following closely behind her. I'm like, okay, if that's what you want, then that's okay. Like, yo, I completely agree. Back in my mind, like, sure, like, yeah, whatever you say. Like, this sorry for misunderstanding, and we ending it with mutual understanding. So not bad. And then, I told years later, I told my mom and my sister, and they laughed at me. 'Cause
Wow.
they said, it's that, that doesn't count as a relationship
Uh-huh.
because you weren't consciously in it.
Yeah. That's really interesting though. Because like, as a queer person who's also interested in girls, it's actually harder to make it clear. Even if I tell them directly that I like you or I love you, they're like, "Oh, you're so nice. I love you too." And they're like, "No, no, not that kind of, tone." And like, that's kind of struggle at times.
That's something I envy about girl to girl, because you can say that. You can say it like, "Oh, I really like love you," or I really like your you look so good today."
Uh-huh.
There's some people at our church that I really like. Some of the new people that I see, they look so good.
Right.
But I consulted with some of my other friends. It's like, you should not say that to them. Like, why? They deserve to know that they look good. I think people should know if I really like your shirt, I'm gonna tell you I like your shirt. If I really like your hair, I'm gonna tell you I like your hair.
No.
The so-called creepiest comment I made is I told someone I love their voice because it was so low.
I do that all the time.
Because my reasoning why is, like, we sing at church, right?
Right.
And everyone's singing at like a middle to high pitch.
Mm-hmm.
This person's voice just cuts through because it's so low, and I can hear it. I don't know. I told him.
Sure.
I told him, I just want to let you know, I really love your voice. And there's like that. There's like taken aback face. It was like, what just happened? And then it's like, thank you. That's a very unique compliment. I'm like, yeah, you're welcome. It's like your voice cuts through because everyone's talking up here and your voice is alone down here.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I became friends with them.
That reminds me. It's not something recent or anything, but when I was so my kindergarten was like American school, like international school type of thing. And then I went into like fully strict national Japanese school for elementary school. And I was such a hugger. Well, I'm still a hugger, when I was like grade 3 or 4, I just like hugged random guys in my class for, their accomplishment. Like, oh, you did this well, or like, you got really good grades, and like, close friend, right? But how, like, especially around those age, people make fun of it, like, oh, she likes him. Like, I really didn't like that kind of thing. And from that point, I became more conscious of like, who am I allowed to hug? Or like, am I even allowed in Japanese culture to hug people without special meaning?
I want to say I was broken at a young age. Like at age 8, I learned how to do that.
Oh.
Like I learned about that kind of culture of like, like hug, because I came from a public school.
Yeah.
Like public Christian school.
Yeah.
I think it's public. Actually, I don't know. We had uniforms, so I don't know if all public schools have uniform. Japan has uniform, right? I came from a public school in Indonesia to an international school with uniform, still Indonesian, and then I moved to a fully Australian school in Singapore, which still to this day people think I go to Australia. And people, it's like, I thought like hugging became a thing.
Uh-huh.
Guy, girl, no, bro, no. There's no line.
Uh-huh.
It's like, cause it was during the time where like, come here, bro. You know, like the bro hug.
Yeah.
And then with like when guys and girls hug, it's like, oh my gosh, I got hugged by her. And then I was like, oh, I guess anyone can hug anyone.
Uh-huh.
But then it's like it's how you react after the hug that people make fun of you. It's like, oh my gosh, like I think he likes her. Like he likes her. I don't know if you've experienced that kind
Yeah.
of yeah. And then I came here, and then it seemed to be more open here.
Uh,
Maybe because at high school level, you're a bit more mature.
uh-huh.
I'd say in quotation. So it seemed a bit more okay, but
For
then
her.
at church it's a bit of a question mark because it's like, why are you showing public display of affection? You know, PDA.
I saw.
It's like why are you hugging them? Just say hi to them. Like be
For her.
normal. But then as a hugger, you know, you're when you're happy to see someone, it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
right. But then we're forced to do. Oh, hello, hello. I bow now. I just bow. Side effect from idol culture. You hold your collar so it doesn't drop, and then you just bow. I don't know how it happened, but
Uh-huh.
after a while, I went from the cabin attendant hand under your stomach, and then you bow to suddenly like now I just hold my sleeve, my collar, and I just bow.
Oh. It's like
I'm like,
Korean handshake where, you
oh
you
yeah, I
hold your
do.
armpit. No, no, not armpit. Elbow.
Elbow. No, I
Like
started.
this.
I do that when I pour water.
How come?
It's,
Just to support for the heaviness?
it seems to be used for soju though. If you ever see it, it's like the two hands.
Uh-huh.
It's either the elbow or the hand, but I don't know. I just do it. Oh, I haven't answered the question. I think because surprisingly, you talked more about the
Oh.
questions here than I did. So I asked you like, are bad relationships seen
Uh-huh.
as a scar or a lesson to you? What do you think? But then you said you never really had a bad relationship.
Yeah. Or I don't even see as unless. Okay, if I am to choose one from those two, maybe more on the lesson side,
Hmm.
because I don't want to give them power to scar me even. Or
Okay.
it's like my opportunity to notice what kind of beliefs I have. So it's more of like internal lesson than like, okay, people with this trait you should avoid or not. It's not really like that. It's more of like what kind of beliefs, limiting beliefs I have, or am I allowing myself to be treated this way? You know, that kind of thinking. And yeah. What about you?
I wanna say I have a lot of scars
Uh-huh.
that I don't know. I don't have the right medicine for.
Uh-huh.
I wanna say. I think most of my scars are mostly internal.
Wow.
I'm thankful I don't have any physical external scars from these past or bad relationships, friendships, any ships, as they're mostly internal. But it's like most of my scars have like dried up and scab. If you know what a scab is, it's that layer of skin that
Uh-huh.
develops after the cut is dry,
Uh-huh.
but it didn't close yet. But slowly it's closing. But because the most recent one is, as I talked about I don't know if I talked about it in the very first episode, but I have a major trust issue, which leads me to think everybody wants something. But the first time, I've never, until 2 years ago, I was rejected by somebody because I could not trust people. And that they said that I don't, we can be friends, but I don't think we can go further than that because of that difference. Of course, there's many other differences as well, but that one seemed to be the key point because I just had a hard time believing in this person, and I trust them enough. But if to be with, ideally, again, no relationship experience. I believe that if you're in a relationship with someone, you would ideally be able to feel they trust you. But in my opinion, trust is something that you have to build, right? It's not something you earn. You have to earn it. You don't
Yeah.
given trust.
I feel the same way though.
And time is no currency
Uh-huh.
for necessarily for earning trust. What I mean is, just because I spent, for example, with you maybe 3 years, I've
Uh-huh.
known you for 3 years, but just because I've known you for 3 years doesn't mean I trust you,
Uh-huh.
because we didn't really talk.
Uh-huh.
Now I trust you. I trust you. I've known you for 3 years, but I
Uh-huh.
trusted you within 1 month, which is last month.
Right.
So you earned that, because that's something you have to gain. It's not something,
And I don't know how I even earned that.
right?
Yeah.
But it's something that it's more action through action.
Uh-huh.
But I'm more words, so I tell people, I tell you,
Uh-huh.
I trust you now.
Uh-huh.
And some people take offense to that. Well, we've known each other for 3 years.
Uh-huh.
Like, we've been close friends for 3 years, but you didn't earn it. We just talked.
Uh-huh.
Because I can tell you, for example, I can tell you about, oh yeah, I was rejected by somebody, or because they couldn't trust me, or I couldn't trust them.
Uh-huh.
But I might not be able to tell you if I'm going through this struggle of, I don't think I have friends, even among people of the same community or culture as me.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I can talk to you about that, because that might be too deep for you.
I see.
Because the unofficial relationship, you can laugh at me. You can laugh at me, not with me.
Uh-huh.
Versus if I tell you something that's a bit more like let's say a past trauma or a scar, you might
Uh-huh.
not be there for me. You might not understand.
I see.
So so I don't know if I can trust you with, let's say, oh, I developed a bad habit. I have an addiction, and
Uh-huh.
you might be a close friend, but you might tell someone else, and it might just spread. So I don't know if I can trust you, just because I've known you for a long time. That's why I
Perhaps.
think recently I started saying, time is not currency to earn my trust.
Uh-huh.
You earn my trust for me. At least you earn it by talking with me
Oh.
and creating. And if I feel that you've created a genuine safe space,
But it
Genuine
was
is-
such a
is-
short time.
exactly. But just throw in some Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood here.
Yes.
You've given me something of equal value
Oh.
that you offered first.
Uh-huh.
Eventually, I would offer that to you as
Uh-huh.
a test. Like, I'm gonna throw this story, and if I don't get judged, if I feel safe, then she's more than a friend to me. Like, she's a closer friend.
Uh-huh.
She's a good friend. But you made the first move. You
Oh.
gave me something that,
And I was not even conscious about that then.
yeah. But then you said, because you didn't even tell me, you didn't even like warn me. You just said, I don't know. I'm gonna tell you because I feel safe. That's why you told. That's how you opened. And I was like, what is she gonna say?
Uh-huh.
Like, is she married? Like, is she gonna get married, or is she like something else?
Oh.
And then you opened up about how you felt, or how like who you've become now.
Uh-huh.
And to me, she probably can't. She's confident in let's say coming out, let's say, but she might not tell that to everyone. Like, I
Uh-huh.
still don't think I don't have any understanding of what it's like to be from that community, or to feel that way inside.
Uh-huh.
But I would imagine it's not something easy you can just throw around and say,
Right.
especially here in a public space right now.
Uh-huh.
And so I treasured that, and so then when you told me at the time, I thought, oh yeah, this is like, she trusts me that much. Like, this can't be a trap or
Uh-huh.
a strategy, unless she
Right,
was
right.
lying.
You said that it might be a trap.
It might be a trap, because for her, like, oh yeah, I've told a lot of people, I'm confident,
Uh,
but I still value that she would still take the time to say that I feel safe here.
uh-huh.
Because when I did ask you, like, why did you tell me? Like, because you made me feel safe. I thought
Uh-huh.
that is a sign. Like, I'm gonna give her my a bit of my vulnerability as well in
Uh-huh.
exchange of equal value, but also because you generally made me feel safe.
Uh-huh.
And so it's only respectful that if you put your foot forward, if you put your hand forward,
Uh-huh.
my hand will come meet you as well in the middle. And that's how you earn my trust. Not because I'm higher than you, so you earn my trust. It's because like you gained it.
I see.
You didn't. You gained my trust. You didn't earn it. You gained it because that's how much respect I had towards your action.
Thank you for
That you
saying
stepped
that.
forward. You're welcome. I'm a word of affirmation, so I can only say words. So for me, it's I don't know. Sorry if I got off track.
That's okay. Like these are really important things to cover in this podcast, right? So
Yeah. So for me, it's more a scar and then the lesson.
uh-huh.
From the scars, from the scar, let's say of the most recent one, where I don't think like I chose that other person instead
Uh-huh.
of you. Oh, I knocked the mic. I chose the other person instead of you because that person can trust others, but you can't. And I don't think we can work like that. It's like I didn't take offense to it because they did mention like you come from a different background, you
Uh-huh.
grew up in a way that, or with people around people that you couldn't really trust.
Uh-huh.
So it makes sense that you turned out this way, or you developed that kind of what's it called, self-defense mechanism.
Uh-huh.
So it's completely understandable, and no one's really penalizing you for the way you are,
Uh-huh.
because you're here because of who you've become as well.
Uh-huh.
So there was a bit of like what's it called? It's a hug and then a slap, or the other way around.
Wow.
It's like, so how do I what just happened? And that caused me to think. That caused me to go in two ways: to trust less because the person that I thought I could trust and I thought I liked, which I still do like because I'm still friends with them.
Uh-huh.
Someone who accepted me said rejected me. Again, this is under the assumption that they owe you something, right?
Wow.
You don't owe me anything.
Uh-huh.
And now I can say that more confidently. Just because I'm nice to you doesn't mean you owe me something back. I'm nice to you because I want to, because I get that sometimes it's really hard out there. I say that as if I've gone through hardship, but it's not everybody's nice out there. And I
Uh-huh.
understand that, and that's why I try to be nice to people, or I choose to be nice to people as best as I can. So it's the scar and then the lesson that I can change, or you know what, this person rejected me, but they still accepted me as who I am,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't deny me in a way that another person did. So I still felt
Uh-huh.
valued as a person. Now, moving on to the next question of what to you defines someone as your friend. Again, like I said before, someone who can create a safe space for me,
Uh-huh.
and I hope I can do the same for that person. I've met more people that have been more vocal about it.
Uh-huh.
Where I asked them because I've been told not to ask this because it's quite like embarrassing, or like, why are you shaming yourself for asking the following question, which I asked: why did you choose me as your friend? Or like, why did you open up to me? And the most recent answer I got was, because you made me feel safe. And if you think my conversation with you was short, this is one's, which actually is the same. I'm not trying to compare, but I only had one real conversation with them,
Uh-huh.
and that made them. Oh, sorry, two. Like one in person, like very short, and second was the second conversation, the first full conversation I had with them. I asked them that question because I was so confused. Like, I just met you. Like, I've been knowing you for 3 months. I've talked to you twice properly, and the second time I talked to you, you already told me a little bit about yourself. But you said, I'm the type that finds it hard to open up to people, or it takes me a while to open up to people. I'm sure maybe you've come across people like that. And they opened up.
Uh-huh.
And I asked them, why did you open up to me? Because I want to not to discourage you, but I don't think we know each other that well enough. And she said, because you made me feel safe, and I kind of get you. Like, I kind of understand. So my first reaction was, I'm sorry, are you being friends with me out of sympathy? It's like, no. So I'm like, evil thoughts. I'm like, that's negative thinking. And she's like, no. It's just like, I genuinely like talking and being with you. I'm like, oh, like that's the warmth. Like someone who accepts me, likes being with me, and like we connect. And of course, it's very respectful. And of course, but the key number one is always the safe space. Because I believe that your friends or your circle of friends should be a safe space for you to be whoever you choose to be.
Right.
And you don't get judged. And what I like about this person specifically is, unlike this other person that I talked to, like we both like dad jokes and puns and dry jokes, and we just really connect on that. And it's hard to find someone like that. I might have told you this one before, but there's a Japanese pun that's about a teapot, which is the Japanese word for teapot is yunomi, and it's like yunomi ga koitan datte. Yunomi, like the teapot, which is called yunomi, said, "You know me," and it's kind of, and it's just those things that when I tell other people, it's like, what? It's like, that's so lame, or like, that's not even funny. But then when I talk to this person, they're very, like, they laughed. And at first I'm like, oh man, they're just being polite, because I'm older than them. Like, exactly, it's like that laugh, like that reaction. Yeah. And it's like, and then it took me, I tried, I think, multiple times. And they said, and I found out that they like the same joke.
Oh, that's nice.
The same jokes. And after that, I was like, I've never met somebody like this before.
Oh.
At least at this age group, where like we're years apart, and I just thought, no young people would like this kind of jokes. It's so lame. It's not cool. But there's just in secret they like these kind of jokes, and I can't help but appreciate and value that. And that's someone that I recently got closer to, and I really appreciated their honesty, and they tell me, they reassure me, not giving me time or space to assume. So if they say something like something that maybe I would say, oh, this is definitely a trap, they'll say it and then reinforce it with, not that, or like, not this. Like, there's no time for me to assume. They reinforce it. And I don't know, half of me feels bad because, oh no, like this person might not trust me, or maybe this person is still doubting, or still thinks I doubt them. But in reality, I found out that because they're similar, like we're similar minded. Is that a right word? We're somewhat similar in the way we think. That's why she understands that need. That's an extra need, which is no hassle at all. But what I'm trying to overcome recently is when I'm talking to, we're on a podcast, so maybe it's a bit different. But when I'm just talking to you casually, I want to stop believing that I'm taking up your time.
Yeah.
Because let's say today's your day off. You should spend your day off the way you want to, not let me take it all.
But I'm happy listening to you talk.
The answer tends to be along one of the following. But I am spending it the way I want to. That's why I'm here. Or I like spending time with you, listening to your stories. But then I'll follow up with, but it's me talking and you're not really telling me anything. But it's okay because I'm a listener. I like to listen more than tell. But I hope I can listen to you too. And of course, I think I say the same thing to you too. But I want to hear more about you. well, what do you want to hear? Ask me questions. You know, like, do you have nothing you want to share? It's like, nothing comes to mind. It's these, I guess, I think it's the season for this. I think that's why I feel very grateful that I'm meeting all these people that are so similar, respectfully similar, because they are all listeners and they all say the same thing. I'm a listener. I don't talk that much. I'm sorry. I'm like, there's nothing to be sorry about. I'm trying to apologize less too. That's why I'm trying to, the experiment, at least for this season or this month, I'm trying to, the challenge for me is to feel like I'm not taking up people's time when I'm telling them my story or just having a casual chat with them just because you have a day off. Because I'm always thinking, if I had a day off, I'd want to spend it maybe sleeping or something, or resting, because maybe I'm talking the rest of the days, so I would want to rest. Or if someone older than me, or someone like maybe my best friend or close friend, or if you call me on a random day when I'm not doing anything, I'd pick up out of respect. But of course, because if, let's say, you have something important to say, even if it's not important, you just want to catch up, I'd still be there. But then why is it that when other people do it, I feel like it's not the same? Because I keep doing this, right? I'm keep talking, talk, and I feel like you're just there, like you're kind of stuck there now. But I'm not saying that everybody feels like I'm not taking up your time. There's bound to be people who feel that way. But I'm just thinking, and what I'm trying to overcome is for people who tell me that it's not, to believe it. That I'm here because I'm spending my holiday or my day off the way I want to. That's why I'm here, and this is enjoyable. And I'm trying to accept it as is. I'm not trying to dissect it or anything.
Interesting. Can I share something?
Yeah, of course.
That kind of reminded me. So I have a really long-term friendship.
Ooh.
In Japan. In Japan, should I just? Anyways, so my best friend in Japan, I know her since grade 6, since I transferred to international school.
Yeah.
And so for most of my school years, I've been hanging out with her. And when I was going to university, I didn't really have confidence that I could make friends because, I'm obviously an introvert. And I just realized, wait, why is she always with me? Like, I'm not really talkative. I'm not really funny. Like, what? But then I kind of, my memory is kind of like disappearing. But I remember she said something around, no, it's fun to be like having conversation with me, and it's also, feeling, it's that safe feeling that.
Or were you even less talkative back then, or were you more talkative back then? Or are you consistent?
I don't ever remember. Maybe I was slightly more talkative, or maybe we were speaking at similar pace, because in our dynamic, you speak more, right?
Yeah.
And I respond, but like that's much less than the amount you did. And thanks for accepting that, though.
No, you're welcome.
But my best friend, she's also not super chatty, and
But
I'm
not
also
super quiet. Like, not super chatty, but not super quiet. Because you said we're similar pace.
I think so.
Okay.
So it was really comfortable for both of us, I guess. I hope she felt comfortable.
It sounds really peaceful.
Yeah, and we were always, eating lunch together. And
versus our dynamics. Like
And
never silence.
yeah, and it's not like we even had similar interests. That's even more interesting, right? But we just like
Well, if you felt
stay
safe with one
together.
another, then good for you.
Yeah, but I felt safe and welcomed. She's not judgmental. Maybe I'm also that kind of person. So, yeah. Anyways, I appreciate that friendship. I don't know if she's listening to this, but thank you. Oh, you can cut this out. I just said I just wanted to appreciate.
I mean, if your friend appreciates a shout out, then if not, then I can just beep it out too.
Yeah, just beep it up.
Okay, our first edit, guys.
Sorry, I just randomly did.
It's okay. It's okay. It's how you feel.
Anyway,
It's okay. They'll never know who it is.
right.
Only the listener will know.
True.
But going to the question I asked you for myself now is, what are some red flags or green flags? I guess I already said the green flags enough. But red for me or signs that I don't think I want this person in this chapter or in my life. Sad to say, I've had a lot of examples already, so this will be easy. People who degrade or look down on others,
Pronoun.
or another maybe a simpler way is people who don't acknowledge people's efforts. And
I see.
I do trip from time to time,
For her.
but specifically is maybe things like, let's use myself as an example. I had drawing one that I've never really professionally approached drawing before, and there wasn't like it was more of it was silently being judged in that class,
For her.
but there were people who were like they put their works beside mine when they're clearly like in a different class level. So because mine would be like very like 2-dimensional, or what you sometimes even 2-dimensional, and then there's just like all shaded like,
Uh-huh.
but then when that's time for my critique, nobody really said anything
Uh-huh.
except one person. I'm not gonna say their name because I don't want to bleep them out too, but there was only one person in that class
For her.
that talks to me and like helps me. But there were also another person who I was friends with for a while,
For her.
but they were and if you know, for people who don't know, the floor that we're at for university is full of music practice rooms.
Right.
So we'd hear like people practicing like maybe like the whole day, just taking turns.
For her.
And not everyone, clearly it's called practice for a reason. You're not
Uh-huh.
perfect. But then there would be some people like, oh, they're playing so bad. Like I can't believe they're in the program, or something along those lines, where you don't seem to be appreciating or acknowledging that they're trying. Because one thing I try to remember, maybe because I'm a self-taught photographer as well,
Uh-huh.
is I used to be there. Like you used to be there.
Uh-huh.
There's a Korean saying that translates to English where it goes, even monkeys fall off trees, meaning even the best of the best make mistakes.
We have a same saying, and actually, I've made a video about that proverb, by the way.
Wow, marketing
Wow.
at its
Marketing.
best. But I told myself that I would never forget where I began,
Uh-huh.
because that's how you stay humble.
Uh-huh.
That's why I try to really pass that on to people that I'm helping now outside of school, or at least at my church with photography. Is I don't want to forget that I still take bad photos. You're never gonna. I rarely get like 100% good photos. I'll have mistakes. I'll
Uh-huh.
have bad framing, bad lighting, whatever it is. But I try not to forget it, because I've met people that really don't appreciate and respect people's efforts, because they've reached a level where, I mean, credits to them, like they've achieved quite um, an incredible amount in terms of their like music or art career.
Right.
But you used to be bad too. And I don't think I can stick around with people who don't appreciate other people's efforts or people's like they're trying, but instead of helping them as I think maybe you've heard an anime, I don't, maybe not, but there's a saying, there's a French saying I believe is noblesse oblige, like as someone who's more fortunate or someone who's reached a certain level higher, it's our obligation to help others as well.
I see.
I learned that from anime. Please don't quote or attack me. But that's something I saw. That's kind of I learned that at a young age through anime.
But
So I thought, oh, chivalry, like gentleman, chivalry, honor, bushido, samurai. So all these codes just got ingrained in me at a young age, and I thought I need to live by this because that's honorable.
right.
And so anyone who doesn't follow or fall under that category of I'm willing to help others to reach where I am, if not higher, because then we can walk together.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to translate this in English, but I met this really amazing videographer during my summer who is so open to sharing what he knows. I don't know. It's like he's not, frugal, like cheap, like someone who doesn't like to spend money, or someone who likes. There's a English frugal means someone who is very. They're very unwilling to spend money.
I see.
So in Indonesian, we use the same word for someone who doesn't like to give.
Uh-huh.
But we use it for anything. So in this case, he's the opposite of. He's not unwilling to give his skill and knowledge and experience.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to follow in that footstep, because he says,
I see.
when I talked to him about it, he says, I'd be happy if you surpass me, because I want you to take what I have and go further, because that's what makes me happy, because it means I did my job. And I'm like, that's amazing. And that's the kind of outlook that's kind of friends I found out that I really want. People who support me. And, or I guess the ops, the red flags are people who may not support what I want to do.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes maybe it's for your own good. Like, oh, that's a dream that I don't think you should approach, or a career path you should not pursue. Sometimes it's for your own good. I get it. But there's a time and place for everything, I think. And at least with you seem very supportive, as long as, because you understand that this might be a good path, or I don't think that's a really good direction you should go in. But it's up to you, because you know yourself better. If you say that, then that's not a red flag for me. That's because you're saying, well, this is what I know. But I'm not gonna stop you, because it's as long, because it's nothing dangerous. It's like I'm not gonna do performance art in the middle of a road or something.
That'll be cool though, by the way.
See, that's an artist talking.
Okay. That's for another episode.
Yeah. But the no-nos are definitely no respect. And someone who can't adjust to somebody's level. And that's not really, I don't mean it in a bad way. Let me explain what I mean. I have friends or I knew someone who talks in the language that they use in their career. I hit the mic. So let's say you're an artist, right?
Right.
Or so you might use phrases that are quite specific to art. Like, what's the term that you would use for art? Is there any terms that are very specific to like sculpture, painting, or digital art?
That's an interesting question.
Like opaqueness, is that even like specific? Transparency?
Transparency.
frame rate, gradient. They seem very generic. These languages.
Right. I guess in this generation, we're used to hearing those terms, I guess. But then it's just, from our perspective. So,
So, oh, maybe I need maybe like statistics language,
uh-huh.
like maybe sample size.
Oh, right.
Like we don't really say that, right? Let's assume you don't really know the word.
Uh-huh.
Like they would
Or
speak
like
in that.
outlier. Do we say outlier? I don't know.
We don't really use it, but things like that. They
Uh-huh.
would speak in that. We call it jargon. Jargon is languages or terms used specific to.
Like big words.
Not really. No, is there like. Well, in media, we define jargon as words that pertain to one field of study. So I would use words like icon, iconic symbol, or if I say to you like the magic bullet, or like what is that,
Right.
right? Like I would use terms that you would understand.
Uh-huh.
So, and that's something that apparently not everyone can do. I was told,
Oh.
because I was told to be a good communicator,
Uh-huh.
you have to understand who you're talking to,
Right.
because you need to convey information as efficient as possible.
Uh-huh.
And I realized that not everyone is good at communicating
Uh-huh.
because they're stuck in one circle. I'm not blaming you to be stuck in one circle, but it's because you're used to talking in that group. But if you know that the person you're talking to doesn't understand the language that you use, then it'd be nice if someone can adapt,
Right.
because that's how I've been made to feel in certain situations where, well, for me, I'm a bit more optimistic, Optimus Prime, they say. I'm sorry that I thought that was funny. Optimus Prime, optimist, like optimistic.
Uh-huh.
Okay, it's okay. But a bit more open, so I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
ask, like, sorry, what's an outlier mean? What's a sample size? Like, what is sample
And
size?
sample space or
Like things like that.
yeah.
Well, I'm more curious because I
Uh-huh.
want to learn what you know. But
Uh-huh.
in some situations, if I'm not in the right state of mind, is what are you saying? I'm sorry, I don't understand. But then you would get frustrated as I like ask you more questions because I don't understand what you're saying. So then it feels like it's my fault for not understanding. Like, oh, I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry, I don't know about your field of study or the terms that you use. I'm not really used to using those words. Things like that where you can't adapt, or you can't really, you get mad at me for not understanding your terms.
Uh-huh.
That's why my approach to communicating with people is I assume you don't know anything.
Uh-huh.
So then I use simple terms. And like, for example, I was talking to a friend the other day, well, 2 days ago now, in Eastern time, about ingredients, like Korean ingredients. It's like, there's gochujang or chili paste.
Right.
Then there's a spicier version called samjang. Wow, I'm impressed. And then there's doenjang, like soybean paste. But I didn't know if they knew the proper terms.
Uh-huh.
So I said, there's in Canada, there's the red bin or red tub, which is the gochujang, or the spicy chili, the chili paste. And then there's the green one, and then the brown one, and then there's chili flakes, which is I guess what we call suchimi,
Uh-huh.
but they call it gochugaru, which is chili
Oh,
flake.
I've heard
but
of that.
But then there's two. There's a rough one, which you see in kimchi,
Uh-huh.
and then there's a softer one or more fine one that you generally can put as well, or you can put it in like soup because it dissolves easier because it's softer.
You know a lot about it.
Yeah. Fun fact, I don't like eating soup dishes.
Oh.
I eat a lot of dry dishes. Except like shabu shabu or what's it, hot pot. I guess that's an exception. But stews, I don't really eat. Beef stew, I'll eat though. But I was just talking to them about, because they were talking about dinner. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh, what ingredients do you have? And they just said, oh, I have gochujang. I'm like, interesting.
Fair.
Then they ended up creating the menu, but I ended up explaining to them the difference of gochujang, samjang,
Fair.
doenjang, and all these other ingredients. And they didn't say that, oh, you seem to know a lot about food.
Wow.
It's just I was explaining to them about the different types of like food that they can make based off the ingredients they have,
Uh-huh.
while assuming they don't know the Korean words.
Right.
And after I found out that they know the Korean words, it just made it easier because now we have a basic understanding.
Uh-huh.
Then communicating was much more efficient.
Right.
But like, let's say with you, because you're trilingual as well,
Uh-huh.
I think sometimes maybe it's easier to speak in Japanese for some words.
Right.
Maybe it's easier to speak in Korean for some words because there's no English or Japanese equivalent.
Right.
It's things like that where maybe the green flag or the red flag is you don't put effort to get to know me on how to communicate better with me.
I see.
Because I will put effort into getting to know you, so I know how to communicate with you.
Uh-huh.
So but again, I'm not saying that if you don't get to know me, then I don't want you in my life. It's more
Uh-huh.
of, if you're the shy type and it's, for example, as a listener, maybe
Uh-huh.
it's hard for me to put myself out there or for me to ask you because I don't know if you're comfortable with me asking, let's say, are you a late sleeper or early morning bird, or more personal questions where are you team blanket or like team half in half out, like something like that, like, or do you, it's like you're really learning about the personality.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you seem to be okay, maybe because we know each other a bit more to ask certain questions, which you
Right.
don't really ask questions. It's mostly like I tell you, and then like if that interests you, you ask me questions.
Uh-huh.
But things like that, that's what I'm looking for. And I get it. I've had my fair share of not putting in effort into relationships, so that's why
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of redeeming myself as best as I can now. I'm playing catch up with a lot of people. So the red flags for me is people who don't show respect to those around them and those who care towards them, which
Uh-huh.
of course I admit that I've made my mistakes last year, and those who don't show effort in how to communicate better with them,
Uh-huh.
which I also admit to making the mistake last year because I'm always like excluding myself.
Uh-huh.
And then I cry out saying nobody wants to know me because I didn't get to know them.
Uh-huh.
So I admit that I'm trying to atone for my sins. They say to use the English word. I'm trying to not to repeat my mistakes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this has been a really long one, so
I know.
it's a bit. This one's one of those really juicy ones, I guess, or
Yeah,
have
2
so much-
episodes long.
I'd say this will be our first really long one. I don't know if we're really free spirited, so we're just gonna go with the flow.
Yes.
But I hope that as we close this off, because I don't want this to get too long, as we close off this, I don't know, part 1 of relationships, maybe we'll have a part 2 depending on how the reactions go
Uh-huh.
or what stories come up. But as we wrap this up, thank you for listening to our first super long one, or maybe 2 episodes worth of relationship, friendship, and any ship that has sailed in our life or sunk in our life episode. And where can people find you?
Well, please find me on Instagram, and my account is at iori.artwork, and it's spelled IORI.artwork.
And if you want to find me and my work, you can find me also on Instagram at Jasoto. That is JASSOETO. And if you haven't followed our Instagram, and also we're actually on TikTok as well. It's gonna be on the link in the bio for the link tree. We have a YouTube, we have TikTok, we have also Spotify, depending on where you're listening to, and we're also on Apple Podcasts. So please do find our links there, and it's on our Instagram, which is at Quantum Perspectives. If you can't find it, just find the thumbnail. It's gonna be the one that looks like the one that you see on wherever you're listening to this right now. And if for those of you who, just to make sure, it's spelled at QUANTUM Perspectives on Instagram. Thank you for listening to this super long episode that we did not really time. We just wanted, because we just wanted to be raw and say whatever we wanted to say and share the stories that we felt was really important. Not only for you to get to know us, but hopefully that something that at least some of the things that we said and shared today related to you, or something that you felt that you could relate to. And I hope that from hearing our perspectives on this topic of friendships, relationships, or any ships that we have sailed in or seen sailed in our life so far, can shine some hope for those of you who maybe have just arrived in Canada, or have just moved somewhere, or are just in a place where it's hard for you to connect with others, because it's not a one-time thing. I want to say, at least for myself, it's really on and off. It happened to me a few times during high school, university a few times, and then now after university, being work from home situation. And do you have any last comments, Yuri, before we sign off?
Thank you all for being patient and listening to this far. This super long episode. Hope to see you guys next time.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.